Fall 2013. Danvers High School in Massachusetts was alive with new beginnings. Colleen Ritzer, a 24-year-old math teacher, was known for her passion and kindness. Her classroom was a safe, welcoming space. Students and colleagues described her as a ray of sunshine. She made a lasting impact on everyone she met. But even the brightest light can be overtaken by darkness. 14-year-old Philip Chisholm was new to Danvers, quiet and unremarkable. He blended in, showing no signs of trouble. He was just another face in Miss Ritzer's algebra class. But beneath the surface, a darkness was growing. October 22nd, 2013 began like any other day. Colleen stayed after school, dedicated as always. In the quiet after school, her path crossed with Philip's one final tragic time. The school would soon become the scene of an unthinkable crime. As the afternoon sun began to set, the school emptied out, leaving behind the quiet hum of a building at rest. But it was not at rest. Surveillance cameras, the silent witnesses to all that unfolds within those walls, captured the chilling sequence of events. Philip Chisholm was seen putting on gloves and pulling up the hood of his sweatshirt. He then followed Colleen Ritzer. He shadowed her as she walked toward the second-floor women's bathroom. She entered, completely unaware that she was not alone, that her student was just steps behind her, his mind set on a terrible purpose. It was a moment frozen in time, the last few seconds of normalcy before a life was brutally stolen. Inside the confines of that small, sterile bathroom, the unthinkable happened. The details are gruesome, a parent's worst nightmare and a community's deepest fear realized. Chisholm attacked his teacher with a savagery that was shocking for any person, let alone a boy of 14. He strangled her, he cut her throat, and he violated her in the most profound way. The violence was swift, and it was final. The place that should have been a private sanctuary became a chamber of horrors. The bright, promising life of Colleen Ritzer, a life dedicated to nurturing young minds, was ended by one of the very students she had committed to teaching. After the murder, Chisholm's actions became even more calculated and cold. He emerged from the bathroom, changed his clothes, and set about concealing his heinous crime. He found a large, blue recycling barrel, the kind used for collecting paper and bottles throughout the school. With a disturbing sense of purpose, he placed Miss Ritzer's body inside the bin. He then took her purse, rummaging through it to steal her iPhone, her driver's license, and her credit cards. It was a theft that added a layer of chilling practicality to an act of pure evil, as if he was already thinking about his next steps, his escape from the horror he had just created. With his teacher's body hidden inside the recycling bin, Philip Chisholm began the grim task of removing her from the school. The surveillance cameras once again tracked his movements as he wheeled the heavy barrel out of the building and into the cool autumn evening. He pushed it across the school grounds, a lone, hooded figure on a ghastly mission. His destination was the wooded area that bordered the school property. There, under the cover of darkness and the rustling leaves of the forest, he dumped her body, leaving her among the trees as if she were nothing more than discarded trash. The teacher who had given so much was left with nothing. As night fell on Danvers, a different kind of fear began to spread. Colleen Ritzer was not home. She was not answering her phone. Her family grew frantic, reporting her missing to the police. At the same time, Philip Chisholm's parents also realized their son had not returned from school and had not answered their calls. 2 missing persons reports were filed, setting in motion a search that would soon connect 2 seemingly separate disappearances into one terrifying narrative. Police began their investigation at the last place both had been seen. Danvers High School. The school became the epicenter of a desperate search for answers. The first major break in the case came from the school's own surveillance system. As investigators pored over the footage, the horrifying story began to reveal itself frame by chilling frame. They saw Miss Ritzer walk to the bathroom. They saw Philip Chisholm follow her. And then they saw the most damning image of all, Chisholm alone, wheeling that large recycling bin out of the building. Police knew then that this was no longer just a missing persons case. Something terrible had happened inside that school. Their search for Colleen Ritzer intensified. now a recovery mission, while the hunt for Philip Chisholm became a manhunt for a suspected killer. The search for the 14-year-old boy came to an end in the early hours of the next morning. An anonymous tip led police to a roadside in the neighbouring town of Topsfield. There, walking along Route 1, was Philip Chisholm. He was miles from home, disoriented but unharmed. When officers approached him, they found Colleen Ritzer's credit cards and her driver's licence in his possession. The connection was undeniable. The missing student had been found, and in his pockets he carried the last vestiges of the missing teacher's life. He was taken into custody, and the dark truth of what happened began to spill out. Back at the police station, the 14-year-old boy confessed. He told investigators what he had done. He admitted to following his teacher into the bathroom, to killing her, and to dumping her body in the woods behind the school. He even led them to the exact location where he had left her. It was a confession delivered with a calm that unnerved even the most seasoned detectives. There was no remorse, no emotion, just a flat, detached recitation of the facts. The boy who sat before them was not the quiet soccer player everyone thought they knew. He was a killer, and the justice system would now have to decide how to handle a child who had committed such an adult crime. The news of Colleen Ritzer's murder and the arrest of her 14-year-old student sent a shockwave of grief and disbelief through Danvers and beyond. The community was shattered. A school meant to be a sanctuary for learning and growth had become a murder scene. Parents held their children tighter, struggling to explain how such a thing could happen. Students mourned a beloved teacher while grappling with the terrifying reality that the killer had been one of them, a boy who sat beside them in class. Vigils were held, candles were lit, and a sea of pink ribbons, Colleen's favourite colour, adorned the town in a quiet, powerful tribute to her memory. The heart of the community was broken. Because of the extreme brutality of the crime, prosecutors made a swift and decisive choice. Philip Chisholm would not be tried as a youth. He would be tried as an adult. The case that followed captivated and horrified the nation. Chisholm's defence attorneys argued that he was not criminally responsible due to severe mental illness, that a psychotic break had driven his actions. But the prosecution painted a different picture. One of a calculated and ruthless predator who knew exactly what he was doing. They presented the surveillance footage, the DNA evidence, and his own calm confession as proof of his sanity and his culpability. The courtroom became a battleground over the nature of evil itself. The jury listened to weeks of harrowing testimony. They heard about the life Colleen Ritzer had lived and the horrific way in which it was taken from her. They saw the chilling evidence of Chisholm's methodical actions before, during and after the murder. In the end, they rejected the insanity defence. In December 2015, they found Philip Chisholm guilty of first-degree murder, aggravated rape and armed robbery. The verdict brought a solemn sense of relief to the Ritzer family and the community, a confirmation that the justice system had held him accountable for his monstrous acts, regardless of his age at the time of the crime. Philip Chisholm was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after serving 40 years, 2 concurrent life sentences for the murder and rape, plus a separate 40-year sentence for a later attack on a corrections officer. He will be an old man before he's even eligible for release. For the community of Danvers, the scars remain. The murder of Colleen Ritzer is a permanent stain, a reminder of a profound and senseless loss, but it is also a testament to the enduring light of a teacher who inspired so many. Through scholarships and charitable acts in her name, her legacy of kindness and dedication continues to shine, a defiant light against the darkness that took her away.